She was just a girl with questions in her eyes, lost in the echoes of a world full of lies. They tried to erase her, to silence her name, but the truth doesn't fade, it still burns like a flame. Can't you hear her crying in the night? Can't you see she's searching for the light? We can't turn away, we can't let this be. If we forget her, then who are we? If we forget her, humanity's lost. A soul left behind is too great a cost. She's more than a whisper, more than a fight. She is the reason we stand for what's right. Locked in the shadows, she's calling our names, begging for justice, for breaking these chains. They rewrite the stories, they cover the truth, but we stand together, we won't let them choose. Can't you hear her crying in the night? Can't you see she's searching for the light? We can't turn away, we can't let this be. If we forget her, then who are we? Can't you hear her crying in the night? Can't you see she's searching for the light? We can't turn away, we can't let this be. If we forget her, then who are we? If we forget her, humanity's lost. A soul left behind is too great a cost. She's more than a whisper, more than a fight. She is the reason we stand for what's right. No more silence, no more pain. We won't let them hide her name. Raise your voice, take a stand, hold her story in your hands. If we forget her, humanity's lost. A soul left behind is too great a cost. She's more than a whisper, more than a fight. She is the reason we stand for what's right. If we forget her, humanity is lost. A soul left behind is too great a cost. She's more than a whisper, more than a fight. She is the reason we stand for what's right. Right. If we forget her, then who are we?
Madeleine McCann case, and you can see on the right her father's name is on the register for that company, a doctor.
Oh, wow.
And as we scroll down, so he's also part of this company called British Society of Cardiovascular Magnetic Resonance, probably very relevant to the other big subject, the directed energy systems and the effects on the heart, and how the vaccines link in with it, which is a whole nother. I've got lots of evidence in relation to the vaccines. It's all part of this, all part of what we're looking at. But on the right there, you'll see we're looking at that company now in the overview, and within the address, there's a company called NSHI Limited. Let's have a look at that company.
All right.
Here it is. So on the left there, I'm searching it in the company's house. It brings it up. And on the right, we've gone into it. We're looking into that record now. Let's scroll down. So first of all, we have another McCann company, McCann Medical Consulting Limited, via that person. And let's go down. Remember, we mentioned CAB #1 Limited Company.
Yeah.
Here it is. So that means within 5 companies, Crocodilo is linked to Gerald McCann. The company name that was given by Julia, who her mother, the Polish mother, has a financial interest in. So now we have a link to to Julia's supposed mother and to Jerry McCann within 5 companies and within 6 to the Madeleine McCann No Stone Unturned company itself.
Okay.
There's over 5 million registered companies.
So just listen. I need to just replay this so that we're up to point here. You have uncovered a link between Jerry McCann, Julia's supposed birth mother's businesses, effectively, that just so happen to be children's clothes shops that are also tying in with worldwide fraud and child transportation.
Yes.
Just let that sink in. Just
the
let
monarchy.
that sink inside chat. On the oh yeah, don't forget about good old Chuck. Just let that settle in for a second, okay? Because all week we've been saying this is brand new, okay? Just put a 1 in the side chat if everyone if I broke that down into the simplest 2-sentence analogy ever. Do you understand what is the first? I mean, I'm sorry, some of you have been banging your head off the desk. I get it. There it is. There's the ADHD version, okay? Just to summarize it all, okay? For my fellow my neural buddies out there. And Gary's got all this backed up. And Gary's ass is coming back because we need to deep dive into Gary's madness with a fine tooth comb, because this is it's always fun when you get a wave of this one could get a shot. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? There's always a good rush. And then for anyone asking, Gary's in a cave in Tasmania on the side of a cliff. That's where Gary is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this is insane. So Julia's entire story, the fishiness, the way it's been handled by police, 14 million of possible fraudulent money just from the McCann case. We're talking about heads of NHS. That's not an easy job, mate. There ain't many people that have got that high up a position. And they all tie back to companies who are illegal, that allegedly transport children. And it just so happens, not suspiciously at all, Julia's supposed birth mum has a bunch of kids' shops that are involved in all this. Anyone think that sounds suspicious? Before we continue, Sean?
So I am wondering then, Gary, I'm absolutely, my mind is absolutely blown by what you've said so far, and your research is absolutely on point. So I'm just wondering, what does this connection imply? What have you theorized it could possibly imply?
I suspect that Julia is Madeleine McCann. No, I suspect it massively. I mean, we have to seriously consider, very seriously, that she is Madeleine McCann. Not only based on my evidence, but that supports what Julia was already saying. All of the marks on her body, the recollection she is having, the reaction by the police, which is highly unusual, the reaction by her parents, and something interesting, actually, which I think we need to mention, Julia, is after I publicized that first document we were looking at, Julia's mum in Poland is now indicating that she may do a DNA sample, which she has never agreed to before.
So basically, I asked my mother, I have asked my mother since 2022 or even maybe 2021, not sure now, for DNA tests, and she was always like, she refused all the time. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I messaged her asking if she can agree for the DNA test, and she said, if I will pay for that, yes, she can agree. And I was like, what the hell? She agreed after 2 years? It's crazy, and now it's for me very suspicious, because she didn't want to agree for so long, and suddenly from nowhere, after the whole things were published by Gary, she agreed. And I was like, what's going on?
Now, Gary, from a police...
And the other...
On you go, Julia.
And the other thing is that I want to say, I'm trying to get someone who will do a polygraph test to me, and I called a few people, and everyone refuses to do a polygraph to me. And I
Interesting.
sent you, Ron and Sean, two recordings of people who refused. I
Yeah.
didn't record more, but I sent just these two, and I think it's quite interesting. And I also want to another thing, I want to ask Ron if he can show some pictures of me
course.
and my mother, because I think that people need to see it, because one picture that was all over the internet was edited so much by some people, I don't know why, and I just want to show these pictures to people because I think they need to see it. So yeah, and the second one when I'm adult, if you can. So this picture is from 2011, I guess, 2012, not sure. But I just wanted to show you because I personally don't see any similarity here. I don't know if you can see it, but well, yeah, just wanted to.
I'm
wanted
just
to show
looking
you.
at the next two pictures here, Julia. Do you want me to bring these next two up?
Which?
These ones, because
Yeah.
I'm not being funny, right? Like I mean, what's going on here, right? Let me bring up this one as well for you. Okay, now listen. I'm not saying this is defining evidence, right? But if your money was at stake, where are you putting your bet on who is most likely going to be a relative out of these pictures?
And someone also said in comments if I want to be McCann's daughter. So I need to clarify it, because I personally love my family. They raised me, and I know many bad things happen, but they still raised me, and I still know them. And this is a very important thing. I don't know Kay and Jerry. I didn't live with them. I just want to prove that what I'm telling is true. I just want to find out the truth, and I want to get justice, and that is all. And you know what? And it's not about changing the family, because I have a family here in Poland. I have my life here, and it will not be changed, because I have life here, and that's all. I just wanted to answer this question.
You're muted, Sean, for some reason.
Some viewers are asking who the lady is with the black hair in the photo.
My mother, who raised me.
Okay.
So, how did you feel, Julia, when Gary? Gary, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. I thought freaking MI6 had nailed you. Right. So, how did you feel, Julia, when Gary came back with all this? Because it's another layer of conspiracy. And one thing, Gary, can you confirm with me, from a police point of view, when suspects are cornered and they know people are taking steps closer, is it a common tactic to give a little something to distract from getting a little bit further, such as a DNA test from Julia's mother?
Yeah, I mean, it's a highly unusual response with all of this information. Without my information, okay, we already had, or the police already had, the information of all of the marks on her body, Julia's body, the recollections. It wouldn't have cost that much to have done a DNA sample. My goodness me, why didn't they just do it? Why didn't they just do a DNA sample? They'd already spent millions and millions of pounds on the investigation, and then to go and threaten Julia with harassment. I mean, that's a highly unusual reaction with all that information.
100%. So, Julia, when all this landed on your lap, what went through your head? How did you feel when you realized the extent not only of Gary's research, but the effect that this is going to have on your entire story in the case?
I will start from another thing, and I will then go back to your question.
Of course.
So I remember the beginning of my journey before it came out to internet. I was trying to do I was trying to find out things in a private way, and I was so sure that my parents will finish this in the beginning, that they will do the DNA test, they will show me whatever I need because they love me. So I was so sure that they will help me. And regarding your question, when Gary asked me for information about company of where my mother is a franchise holder, I also wanted to be sure that maybe all of this is like a bad dream. You know what I mean? Like a nightmare.
Yeah.
That maybe, I just wanted to. I just still want to know, and I just wanted to know. But I was like, maybe he will not find anything. Because it's not about this. It's not about that I want to be a Maddie and I want to change my parents. No, it's not about this. Since the beginning of my journey, I wanted my parents to go with me to a lab, do a DNA test, and finish this story before it started. But it never happened. So when Gary showed me what he found, I was surprised. I mean, maybe not so much because I had in my mind that he will not find it, that he will find it, sorry. I had on my mind that he will find it, that he will find something, but I didn't know that he will find a connection with Kate and Jerry, and I was like, it was so shocking for me.
So when Gary told you all this, did you, is it scary to hear somebody turn around and say categorically that they could put forward evidence that you are Madeleine McCann? Do you feel almost scared getting closer to the truth and what that could mean for your family unit as you know it? I mean, the reality must be so terrifying. I mean, just take us through that.
I mean, I started to be scared a little bit. Gary told me that my life is potentially in danger, or it could be. So it also scares me a little bit, especially after what happened last year. I personally don't know if it's a good idea to talk about this, but I think maybe I should. So last year,
listen, if you want to, Julia, don't.
Yeah, I mean,
take a second to
I
think.
can. I mean, I processed it before, so I can. So last year on Madeleine's birthday, I was in a hotel because my younger sister had a first communion next day, and I couldn't sleep in my dad's house, so I was in a hotel, and I had an asthma attack. So I called ambulance, and the how they're called,
Paramedic.
paramedics came, and one of them told me that he will take me to my room, and he gave me meds. He said it's something that will help me with my breathing. And actually, he told me the name of the medication. I still remember, and it's a medication to sedate people, to put them in very deep sleep. And basically, he said, "Oh, you're still not sleeping." So I didn't. I wasn't sleeping, and he gave me another dose very fast. And later, I woke up in the morning, and you can imagine what I felt happened. And I didn't talk too much about it with anyone, but I reported this to police, and it was and I gave my statement in court. But well, they finished investigation saying that they have no proofs, but CCTV camera were there, so they could find him. And I was feeling that maybe it's not connected at all to this case, but I took it like a warn in some way. And that is why this is like one of the main reasons why I stopped my journey last year, because I started to be scared, but the truth is more important for me than being scared. I mean, I know I can't control emotions. Like, I can't just say I don't want to be scared and I will not be scared. I am scared, but it's something in my mind, my heart, that pushing me to trying to find out the truth and getting justice. But it is hard, and when I see all these hateful comments on some platforms when people write that I'm doing this for fame, that I'm doing this to destroy McCann's life, or that I'm lying, it's really, really difficult because I'm not a liar. If I would be a liar, I wouldn't like to do that lie detector test, or I wouldn't want to have DNA. And if I would do this for fame, I would going back to Instagram, I am Madeleine McCann. I promised to people that I will never ever publish my music video there, and I never did it. And it was like 1.5 million people there. So how am I doing this for fame? Is very, very sad for me. Because I have really honest intentions. I really want to. I just want to know, and that's all. And sorry for being very talkative.
No,
But,
listen, Julia. This is all about you. It's about giving you this voice, and I don't know how any of us would handle being told what Gary found out about any of our families or whatever. And Gary, again, your research is so deep and there's so much of it. When we start linking the McCanns, Julia's birth parents, from a detective movie point of view, how buried has this become for this to not have been picked up by anyone? Because this seems to me like you have definitively discovered the paperwork evidence for the PDF Global Club. And regardless of Gary's point of view compared to other people's point of view, such as John Wedger, on cases, we're allowed to explore all theories and have different points of view. And how massive do you think this is in the case, Gary? I mean, it's obvious, but linking all this together, I mean, from a police point of view, how buried is all this?
This is the key to most of the world's problems. That's how confident I am about this. It's a huge claim to make, not only to the child trafficking, but to illegal wars around the world. Every conflict around the world is going to be linked to this system of fraud. The motive for doing so through the taxation system, for the capture of children during those conflicts to take into the sex trade and into the other sinister, nefarious things that go on with children. This is absolutely key information to change the world. I absolutely believe that. And we haven't had a chance to look at it, but on the first document, not only is there the connection from Crocodrillo, but Julia supplied other information about her parents that links significantly back in again to the fraud. There's then links to Donald Trump via that, to the US government, but also a company that was specifically named, I believe, in the first names of Julia's parents in Poland, so that they could be paid for keeping this quiet and looking after Julia. And that company dissolved after I started exposing the fraud as well. And it links to many educational establishments in that document, the Boarding School Association that links to Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein. It links to the Oxford Global Learning Company. Global Learning, that's a forged company. Oxford is where Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell lived for a long time. Ghislaine Maxwell was actually a director for Oxford Football Club. Many of the doctors actually study at Oxford University. There's a huge NHS connection in relation to this child trafficking, and Oxford is quite key to that.
Do you think then from the Oxford individuals, you would be able to, from your data, see a path where people have been hand-picked or cherry-picked for positions they later walk into, shall we say, within this PDF file club?
Well, I wouldn't like to speculate on that side of things. You can certainly link people both legally and with financial interests through these organizations where there is fraud, and you can see where it links. So, for example, I mean, this is, again, a whole other subject, but Cancer Research UK was set up in November 2001, 2 months after the World Trade Center disaster. That evidence linked from a doctor in the Lucy Letby case to the Cancer Research UK. On that document, you also have AstraZeneca PLC. Back in 2001, well before COVID even came out, you also have Lloyds Bank on there. Lloyds Bank are where I acquired the forged bank documents. Okay, the complaint is still open over a year and a half later after making my complaint to Lloyds Bank, just purely to confirm, can you confirm, are these authentic documents? Did you produce them or not? It's still open. They haven't responded. Lloyds Bank control the finances of the Crown. Prince Charles was the Prince of Wales, where Companies House is based. The illegal entities, when they dissolve, the assets go back into the Crown.
Gary, quite a few people in the chat have expressed concern for Julia's safety because of what was said earlier. Could you just let the viewers know what that's based on and what Julia should be doing, or whatever help could be provided to guarantee her safety?
Sure. Well, obviously, with something this huge, there are risks. I think it's now the point with Julia that the safer you become safer, the more you publicize it. Okay, it's very important that Julia identifies that she's of sound mind. She's not thinking of doing anything to themselves. Neither am I. You know,
Yeah.
I am not suicidal in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm incredibly motivated with all of this because we now know what I believe is the key to most of the world's problems, and that is incredibly enlightening because we now know what needs to be done to fix it. And I can give a whole range of things that now must happen.
Do you know what I think is a good idea? I think we'll dial back and focus on the links with the McCann case, and then we'll get you back on for because I'm happy to put my face to stuff like this, but I think just for the sake of the side chat and, you know, red dots coming through windows and stuff, let's just give a definitive coverage on what you think it means with regards to the findings with Jerry, these companies. Julia had said that this document here had further links with her mother. Is that right, Julia?
Yes.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure we finished off going through all that.
I also can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention that I'm completely fine. I'm not suicidal.
Yeah.
And I don't want to harm myself in any way.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that if anything ever would happen to me, I just need to say sorry. Then I need you to know that all my evidences are backed up in more than one or even more than two hard drives and devices, and is in 3 countries because my close friends have this backup. And if anything bad would happen to me, it means that something did something bad to me, not I did something bad to me.
Yeah.
So I just needed to say it because I feel it's a good moment to say it. And if anything would happen to me, then all these things that are backups will be published in the one moment around the world.
Can I just say as well, Julia, like a lot of people, gets a little bit nervous when she's on a live in front of a couple of thousand people. Julia, you remember you phoned me and you were like, you are not going to believe what this guy has found out. We need to get this out. And you know, you are well aware of everything that you're getting involved in. People don't give you enough credit for, you know, your investigation. So I just want to make that clear to everyone that it wasn't Gary, it wasn't anyone like that. It was Julia who came and said, listen, you ain't going to believe this. We need to put this out there. And, you know, for those of you who worry and all the rest of it, Julia is one of the most badass guests, and I mean that in the fullest extent of the word, from an admin point of view, to a bravery point of view, to an articulation point of view, evidence, everything is so beyond on point that, I mean, how do you turn that away? Do you see what I'm saying? Because she is the driving force of all this, and she should be credited for it. and Gary as well, your investigation's pretty mad. And I'll happily, and I'm sure Sean will put his face to it and my face to it for the real spicy stuff.
I think right, and I want to reiterate what you said. I think Julia is an incredible person. I've had many conversations with Julia, and I see no reason to disbelieve what she's saying. She seems very genuine, very authentic. We've tried to have discussions about specific things, and you can see she genuinely finds it hard talking about some of those memories. And, you know, what she has been put through since trying to explain her suspicions is not right, and it's not fair. And I think if I can be part of that to support her and corroborate what she believes, and I think I'm doing that, and the police will be held accountable. If anything happens to Julia, the police will be held accountable with this, okay? They are aware of this. We've sent an email to Operation Grange. I think we can show that if you need to on the screen. They have been informed of this evidence. And if anything happens to Julia, the police will be accountable.
Yeah.
I
Julia,
sent you this email before.
Okay. Was it an image of an email?
It was PDF.
PDF. Right. Hang on.
File.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Got it.
Okay, good.
So the document we're looking at here, it just basically I then show the screenshots from the first document. Okay, so you can see where it ties in with that first document we were looking at. So that's all that document really shows from then on.
Summarizes it all.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Here we go. Here's the next one, Julia.
So this is the email that I sent to Operation Grange this morning. I tried doing it last night and it was too big. I don't know. Would you like to read it out? Because I don't know if I can read it. But
Sean,
yeah, I'll read it. Yep.
Here we go.
All right. So to Operation Grange. Good evening. I am a former police constable, and since 2022, I've acquired irrefutable evidence of decades-long international government fraud linked to apparent child transportation, abuse, torture, murder, and the harvesting of, let's just say, adreno Kool-Aid from children, as well as its links to apparent sinister depopulation plans with vaccines and directed energy systems. Almost all UK police forces and 650 members of parliament have been completely ignoring several more recent reports containing this evidence. Since Saturday, 10th of August 2024, I've been in contact with Julia, whom, for various significant and justified reasons, suspects she is Madeleine McCann. Since that time, I have identified information suggesting the police have been trying to conceal the truth of Julia's real identity. Using my previous research methods and specific information provided to me by Julia, I have now confirmed that Julia's information about her supposed Polish family links irrefutably, verifiably, and corroboratively to Gerald McCann within 5 companies and to the Madeleine's Fund Leaving No Stone Unturned company within 6 companies. That is fraught throughout this research and close links to the likes of Robert and Ghislaine Maxwell, the Hampstead, blah, 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 our new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and a company where I was removed as a director for refusing to file forged bank documents. The first created evidential research document named Julia, and the more recently acquired screenshots taken from the Companies House register confirming the links to Gerald McCann, Julia Part 2, can be found within the evidential research document file within the court document file link below. This, along with the other evidence being presented by Julia, suggests she is almost certainly Madeleine McCann, and that you have been trying to conceal that information. Despite Julia's supposed mother in Poland refusing to assist in a DNA sample to prove or disprove Julia's suspicions for 2 years, she is now claiming she will assist in a sample. This was after I publicized my first document named Julia, and prior to acquiring the evidence shown in the document named Julia Part 2. I suspect this will be with a view to falsifying a DNA process, as I know that the forensic archives is compromised by this fraud if DNA sampling was ever indeed real. I suspect this was created to assist in convicting the innocents. I'm sure I will be speaking for most of the nation when I say that we request the immediate resignation of the heads of the UK government, special advisors, including Douglas Smith, police chief constables, and police and crime commissioners, the heads of UK intelligence agencies, heads of all child-related government organisations, all heads of the family court system, and an immediate enactment to ensure there is a transparent taxation system at source, full verification of existing and new company incorporations to ensure full accountability and liability is restored, and no further move towards full digital currency control. Further measures will be demanded by the people to protect families from the threats that have been posed for so long, including that of directed energy systems. The document file link below also contains some of my other evidence acquired since 2022. I've also listed some of the reference numbers of my report to UK police forces. The email will be publicised immediately on all available platforms. Thank you very much. God bless you. Kind regards, Gary Waterman. Then it gives the numbers, etc. Well, let me just say one thing then regarding DNA. So in America, DNA labs have been caught corresponding with prosecutors, whereby the DNA labs have been asking the prosecutors, what result do you want? That is how corrupted that whole process has become.
Wow. That's wild. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
I actually.
you want to continue, Gary?
I was just going to say on your point there, I established that they were compromised via the research from the apparent abuse and murder of children on Jersey. It linked through to the Forensic Archives Limited via that research. I think it was a fraudulent company. It certainly linked to the fraud. So, of course, that enables the ability to remove the accountability and liability in their mind and legally for them to corrupt the DNA process and the forensic side of things. And, of course, they can then use that to silence individuals and set them up and frame them if they think they're getting too close to the truth.
Yeah, this is a deep rabbit hole.
So that ties into the Hort de la Garenne thing, does it, with Savile?
Yeah, that ties in very quickly, actually, from the research of the the main lead investigating police officers.
I have
All right.
to go, unfortunately.
Okay, Julia, just give us your closing statements and all of this.
And there's 24 questions for Julia that have been starred as well.
Well, listen, Julia, if she needs to go, she needs to go. It just means we'll pick it up another time for you guys.
I really have to go because I have the cinema very soon with my
That's
boyfriend.
okay. That's
but
okay.
I can say at the end that I'm very grateful for all kind comments, and I hope that the truth will come out, and that what Gary said will also be. We also, I don't know how to say it. We also come to the point where more people will know about this, and more, and someone will do something with these corrupted governments and other people who are corrupted, because it's even hard to trust the police right now, you know. Yeah. Even if someone from police will come to me and say, oh, I decided that I want to help you. I didn't want before, but I want now. Yeah. It would be even very hard to trust this person, but unfortunately it didn't happen. But well, the only thing that I'm fighting for is truth and justice, and this is my final statement. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity again to talk. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Gary, for help, and thank you for all kind comments. And I have to go. Sorry.
No problem. No problem, Julia.
Bye.
We'll maybe try and arrange a Q&A night with Julia so that everyone can put their questions over. We'll see how she feels. Sean.
I can pick out the questions that have come in for Gary.
Yeah.
Have you got time to answer questions, Gary?
Yeah, of course. Go for it. Sock it to me.
All right.
Okay.
So if anyone watching has got questions for Gary, I imagine quite a few people do because there was a lot of information came at us earlier on in the first hour.
Yeah.
Put them in the chat now, and I will scroll back and look at what has come in so far.
Sean,
So
if it's not too rude, I'm going to drop out here and get ready for Wedger. Let this go on as long as you want. But Gary, I just want to say, sorry for putting you on the spot, saying, do you want to come back and all the rest of it? I 100% want to make sure that we get connected after this show. So once you're finished with Sean, once the live stream is finished, will you give over an email or something that we can connect with after this?
Of course.
Right, beautiful. All right. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Side Chat.
Thank you, Ron.
We will see you later on this evening for myself with Wedger Crime Theory. Thank you all. And Gary, this is the beginning of a journey that I think our Side Chat is going to be craving. So thank you so much. Thank you. Peace and love, everybody. Catch you on the next one.
So Fifi, Gary, is asking about the connection between Maddie and Nikki Bully, the officer mentioned. Yeah, Maddie and Nikki Bully connection.
Yeah, well, first of all, you have the legal entity companies linking them. I mean, that's not unusual because they're incorporation companies. So some of them have sort of 20,000 companies under their belt, if you like. But there's also a particular person that links them. I think I may have the name wrong. I've got it on a document. I think it's Mark Thomas. And he was a former police officer, and he was a detective that was involved in looking into the Madeleine McCann case, also the Nicola Bully case, but also he was involved, according to research, in starting up Operation U-Tree, involving the investigation of Savile, which led on to Jeffrey Epstein, Max Clifford, Ghislaine Maxwell, etc. And of course, Keir Starmer, who we've already mentioned a lot in this interview, was the Director of Public Prosecutions for the Jimmy Savile case.
Yeah, and Keir Starmer's response was that he wasn't aware of that case when he was the head of that. And how can you not be aware of the case of the most famous person in the history of the BBC? I mean, his response was absolutely preposterous. What did you think of his response?
Yeah, I did see that. I've got the article somewhere, and it was quite shocking. And I think that came out after I was reporting the fraud. So I mean, so many things have happened since I've been exposing this. There's so many things I could tell you about, but which will blow you away. But yeah, I just found it was a case of trying to remove any sort of accountability and liability for whatever happened with the Jimmy Savile case to separate Keir Starmer as much as possible from probably what's all going to be coming out.
Question from the Happy Gardener. Gary, are you scared you might be hunted?
No, I've gone past the scared moment. I've got a strong faith, which has guided me all the way through this. And there's been times when I've not known whether to continue because of the risk, not only to me, but those around me, that I love. And I've had to say, do you know what? This is bigger than me. It's bigger than those around me. We're talking hundreds of thousands, if not, I suspect, millions of children over the last few decades that have been affected by this. And I've got to take any risk possible to save those children. It's as simple as that.
Question from English Bottle Cap. Can Gary provide a single sentence summary of what has been discussed this evening?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so very simply, there is irrefutable evidence which is corroborative and verifiable to show decades-long international government fraud linked to child trafficking and much more heinous activity through the forgery of the company registration systems and their incorporation documents, which is a crime, to create illegal entity companies that should never have been trading, and the banks producing forged bank documents for those illegal entities to falsify those company figures and send them through into offshore accounts. This means that anyone involved in those illegal entity companies that aren't even real can get away with whatever they want, including child activity, defrauding the general public, illegal wars, etc., etc.
Question from Angela. I hope this is helping Julia and not putting her at risk. Gary, amazing work, but what security is there for Julia following this podcast?
Well, it's been reported to the police, so they will be held accountable and liable. They will know the risks to her in this now being publicised. I've given her various prevention advice. She's quite set on doing certain things that I've advised her against, but that's up to her. So, of course, there's a risk. The more people that talk about this, the more people that expose this. There's already a lot of very high-profile victims now coming forward. I'm getting evidence in relation to high-profile deaths that have happened. The more we expose this together, the safer everybody becomes, and the safer Julia becomes.
Question from Valerie. Gary, have you found out anything about Payne, Jerry's friend, Payne?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Next question is, let's see. Starmer. Hunted, we've done that one. Let's see. Okay. Are you going to provide a link so people can click on it for the evidence?
Yep. There's an evidential research document file link that I can give you, and you can put it on your channel. If people are going to look at that, it's going to be quite complicated. Obviously, going straight into some of the documents, so I would suggest they look at the BCP Council document and the World Trade Center disaster document, because I've actually written a guide and a description within those documents, so you can follow those two documents through and see exactly what I'm talking about. Once you've read those, you can then look at the others and maybe pick up a little bit more about them.
Question from Juanita. Where can Gary file this case, and can he trust the courts?
Absolutely not. The legal system is completely corrupted by this. You have barristers, solicitors, judges, all linked to this. They're even linked, I've got evidence, some of them, to the address 788 to 790 Finchley Road, which is already connected via the Ham and High article, highlighting it as being linked to international government fraud. No, the only place you can go with this is the public, because the legal process is overseen by the Crown, and unfortunately the Crown is implicated in this. The monarchy are implicated.
Question from Ray J. Gary, have you been threatened in any way by the police, government, or security services?
Initially, when I started out, I had two vague threats at a meeting that I went to where I was trying to remove two of the directors from a family member. Since then, I've had hardly any threats. I did have an incident where they, I believe, tried to steal items from our van. And I do suspect there was an attempt of poisoning at one point as well, with linked to the Russian intelligence agencies.
Wow.
Which I can talk about.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, you can do. So I'd already made some vague Russian connections to the fraud. And it was in February this year. I was parked up. My wife had gone back home for a while to see family, and I was parked up in Barnsley. And we've got two dogs. And I got out of the van, and there was a blue surgical glove, excuse me, turned inside out right by the door, the sliding door of the van. Yeah, wasn't there before. The van door was facing into the road. It wasn't onto the pavements. There was no need to anyone to be that close to the van. Anyway, I didn't think too much of it. Got out and saw two young guys, sort of mid-20s to early 30s, walking by, and they were speaking what sounded to be Russian or Far Eastern European language. They walked off around the corner. I followed maybe a couple of minutes later, went around the corner, and they were already walking back in the same direction towards my van, looking over their shoulder at me as they went past. And there was nothing that they appeared to have gone to where they'd walked to. I went back to the van. I took another look at the turned inside surgical glove, and I thought, Okay, so I wiped all the handles down on the van, drove off, messaged my friend, said, you know, hopefully I may be worrying too much here. I then found significant connections that I can show you in documents through to the Russian intelligence agencies linked to the monarchy, international government fraud, and my company. So I think I was very lucky. I have to suspect, I think that was an attempt on my life. And the Salisbury poisoning, which we're all aware of, was in, as we know, Salisbury. That's very close to specific connections I've made to this international government fraud as well.
Question from Tug Simp. Gary, have you looked into Michelle Dauber? Find Claire Best. She finds information like you do.
No, I haven't.
Question from Jean. Does Gary have a website or Facebook page?
I've got a Telegram channel, but pretty much all social media is controlled by this fraud. I've got the evidence. The Telegram channel goes back to, on Company's House, to Vistra, which had a previous name of Jordans and Sons that started my company up. In short, I've got a Telegram. They removed my YouTube completely after I submitted a report in relation to fluid taken from wee ones. So I've got a Telegram, and I go on Rumble, and I've got 2 email addresses that people can contact me on.
Question from Dr. Ziggy. Where do you go now from here, Gary?
With this is through overexposure to the public. I've set out a strategic document as to what I think everybody should be doing. That's only my opinion, to compel a change in the system. What we need is a change in the system so we can be more certain that our money is not paying for the suffering of children, not only in the nefarious side of things, but also in illegal conflicts.
Question from Fred. Has Gary reported this to his MP?
Oh, yes. I've got the evidence. He's heavily linked to it.
Okay.
He's now ignoring all of my emails.
Question from Gregor. Wasn't it reported that one of his doctor colleagues, I think Jerry's, had a very unhealthy fascination with Madeleine?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, let's have a look. Discovered, I'm sure. Okay, that's from Philip. Right, 1 second. Let me just. They're all the ones I had saved, but there's probably going to be more now in the chat that's come in since we've been speaking. So I'm just scrolling back a second. Let's have a look. And we will put Gary's links into the description box after this video to, if people want to click over to analyze this even further. Can you get Gary back on the show? This information needs to be spread wide and far. Yes. Miracles is asking about the eye anomaly with Madeleine and Julia. Please go to Julia part 3, where we show the eye anomaly on Julia. It is the same size and in the same position. It's just not the same color, but possibly things can change over time. Let's have a look. Yeah, we've done a lot on Savile on this channel as well, which ties into what you're saying. And we've had one of the Savile survivors, Sheila, has been in the chat tonight. She was at the Duncroft girls' school, and people can check that out. All right. So, question from Graham: is this 5 companies linked to one company, or is it 5 degrees of separation, like 7 degrees links every person on the planet?
So it's basically going from a company to a director to a new company. That's 1. From a director to a new company, 2. So it's basically like that. And this means that there's and you'll find there'll be many more links. This is only just what I've found quickly from going back into the Madeleine No Stone Unturned company. I haven't even looked into it more since I found this. So there's bound to be many, many more connections. And it's not just the other connections that I find they utilize the same addresses for multiple different companies, okay, or variations of an address. And it's not only incorporation companies that are linking them. You find the same specific companies that also feature throughout my research as well, which makes those connections, if that makes sense.
Yes. So Gary is asking if you're still an active police officer, and I don't believe so.
No, I resigned in 2018.
All right. Question from Valerie. Why wasn't Jerry and Kate's friend's statement taken into account? They were also doctors that travelled with them one time, and they were pointing the finger at Payne and Jerry being, yeah. Do you know anything about that, Gary?
I don't, but there's a lot of things they didn't do that they should have done. My goodness me, there's so many things. So obviously, Madeleine's mum, Kate, didn't answer most of the questions by the Portuguese police, I believe. One, I think, at the end of 37 questions, was it? Which I found very suspicious. They all then refused to take part in a reenactment as well. Just whilst I'm thinking about it, the other thing is to confirm that the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce is also corrupted by this fraud. On a separate document that I've got, they're also corrupted and linked to this system of government fraud. Now, that's very important because this fraud is in relation to incorporations. So that creates a conflict of interest with Portugal, okay, because they will be implicating themselves in this child trafficking and international government fraud as well.
We've got two questions / comments that tie into each other. So I'll do them both first. Kaz is saying, can no one do anything about this? The public can't do anything about it except talk about it or protest and get arrested. And the next one is, if it's been going on for decades, how do you know it will not just go on for decades and nothing will happen? So some people are just thinking it's out of our control. These people are too powerful.
No, I believe this can be changed very quickly. I've stopped paying all my taxes because if I pay my taxes after this, I'm aiding and abetting the suffering of children. So I've done a 9-point conditional notice to the tax office saying, no, I'm happy to pay my taxes, provided you do this, this, and this, and this, which is easily within their technological capability after this, because I can't legally pay my tax now because I'll be aiding and abetting the suffering of children, and they can't force you to commit a crime. They can't force you to aid and abet their own criminal system. So if enough of us was to do a conditional notice of acceptance for these points to therefore protect the children, it would change overnight because they would have to.
Well, you definitely walk the walk then. A question from Kay. Gary, this is so big. Do you have people assisting you?
I've got lots of people assisting me remotely. I can't meet anybody in person. I've been very specific about doing that because it immediately puts potentially risks putting a stop to all of this, and I can't risk that. So yes, lots of people helping me remotely. Not many people seem to be doing exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to tell people how to do what I'm doing so that if anything happens to me, then obviously it can continue.
Question from ID, and that is, are you aware as to whether Julia's mother, Polish mother, and Jerry McCann know each other?
I don't, but it wouldn't surprise me if they've met with the close connections.
All right, so we've got from William, can Gary explain in one short sentence why he thinks Julia is Madeleine?
Okay, first of all, I don't think she is. I strongly suspect she is. Okay, there's a difference. I would put, if I was a betting man, I would put money that Julia is Madeleine. And first of all, you've got to look at the similarities in the description, not only the general description, but also the scars, the eye abnormality. And then I've had many in-depth conversations with her. She appears to recollect very detailed, specific information that ties in with the Madeleine McCann case. Then you've got the fact that the parents and the police both refused completely to do a DNA sample, which is unusual, and the police threatening her with harassment. And of course, they wouldn't want to expose this. There's several motives for that. First of all, if the investigation is still live, then they can use this system of fraud to continue defrauding the general public through the taxation system in relation to that investigation and pumping tax money through the investigation. Secondly, if they identify Julia as being alive, then it opens a whole can of worms of potentially linking the monarchy, politicians, etc., to government fraud and the sinister activity of children.
All right, we've got a question from Damien, and that is, do you think that Madeleine was abducted or was she given away?
I'll be speculating on this. Julia has told me that she vaguely remembers a comment being made in a room with several people around her, and something happening. I'll let Julia explain if she wants to explain about what happened in that room. But then she recalls being taken through a window and going into the back seat of a car. So I suspect it was done with the consent of the parents. You know, physically, I don't think they physically tried to stop whatever happened to Julia if she's Madeleine. But I, based on what she's told me, I think she's been placed into a group of people who are involved in the abuse of children. But I wouldn't like to speculate any further than that, really.
We've got a question here as to whether what's happened, you know, in this case, Madeleine McCann case, is linked to Freemasons.
100%. My research links to Freemasons all the way through, pretty much.
Okay, and Jennifer is asking, what were the links to the pharmaceutical companies?
There's many links, actually. Not specifically in the document I've shown you, but I'm seeing it all the way through the board. The Fleming family, according to research, now obviously I've explained a lot of the Fleming family connections. You had Alexandra Fleming, who was involved in the creation or invention of the penicillin. So I'm led to believe. I can't remember the year that was. There's also a huge connection, which is quite important, in relation to the power industry. Okay, so the first antenna was actually put on the Isle of Wight, according to research. The person in my company had jurisdiction in the NHS on the Isle of Wight and has connections to JP Morgan. That antenna was put up by Marconi. Marconi was in a close race war to get electricity available to the world with Tesla. JP Morgan got involved with that and appeared to monopolize the electricity industry around the world. And that is all part of the fraud as well, by the way. Most utility companies are linked to this fraudulent system.
Next question is from English Bottle Cap. Are there any other notable persons connected with Madeleine's disappearance also connected to the same companies?
I'd have to look at the documents. I haven't checked if the same actual director's linked, to be honest with you. I know we've got, as I've said, the detective, not a police detective. He'd already left the police, but he links both of those cases. There's bound to be a lot more connection. I just haven't had chance to go more into detail because my research has had to be very dynamic, leading from one thing to another very quickly. So I've got to go back over stuff, really.
All right. So, question from Shane. I'm fairly new at this case, Gary. Why haven't they simply subpoenaed the parents and Julia to come to a neutral country to have a trusted DNA test done to completion to get results?
Well, the legal system is corrupted. So you'd be asking the legal system to subpoena exposing themselves and the Crown. This is the trouble we've got. They're not going to want to expose themselves. This is why my reports were shut down very quickly when I was trying to report this.
Next question is for Valerie. Is there any connection those companies have with any care homes or orphanages? I suspect there is, since there is a connection to hospitals.
Thank goodness that question has come up, because someone keeps saying to me, Gary, you must mention the care homes, and I keep forgetting. So that this person will be very pleased that that's come up, because most care homes are illegal entity companies and should never have been trading. That's now being confirmed. Many of them were actually set up with Jordan's and Sons or Jordan's and Swifting Corporations, the same companies that we used to start mine. So yes, there's a massive connection to the care homes.
Question from Claudia: is Jerry a connected person?
Connected, as in connected to the fraud?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, we can see that within the documents. Very quickly links through to this system of fraud. He may not have known. We do need to say, I didn't know. Remember, I was linked to an illegal entity company. I had no idea. I presumed it was lawful. So, of course, doesn't mean that everybody's guilty. They may not have actually known what they were part of.
Okay, you're being asked by Adele if you've done any research on the Jill Dando case.
I have.
Oh, great. Do you have anything to say on that then?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Next question is from Worldwide Ghosts. How do you explain the cadaver dog findings at the Portugal apartment along with in the car?
First of all, remember the police are corrupted. So anything the police were involved in that investigation could have been altered, adapted, changed to provide misinformation, disinformation to sway away from the truth. In relation to what they're saying, it's possible that some blood was either taken from Madeleine in that room, bearing in mind we're talking about the fluid taken from little ones, where I've got the evidence connecting that, or if there was some kind of abuse, physical abuse that happened in that room, it's possible that there was blood, there was blood from that incident.
All right, so next question is from BCTV. Why are the police saying that Madeleine probably died at Praia da Luz? Sorry if the spelling isn't right.
Possibly because they don't want to expose the bigger issue. You know, the fact that these children are being moved into a large network of abuse, which would then expose the bigger system around the world and potentially the fluid and the links to the fraud.
Fred wants to know if you are connected to a church.
No, I did go to a church. Unfortunately, many churches are are linked to this system of fraud. A lot of them have illegal entity companies. It does appear as though most religions have been infiltrated by the Freemasons and corrupted into this.
Yeah, well said. Happy Gardener, do you think Madeleine was given over as payment?
It's possible. I'd be speculating on that. Some information I'm getting coming in from others, separate cases, are recalling a transfer of payment in relation to them. So, and that does seem to link in with potentially with the Madeleine McCann case.
Valerie's wondering whether there are any companies linking the Podesta brothers to this.
I do plan to look at them. I haven't had chance at the moment, but quite possibly.
Okay. Let's see, tons of questions. Where are the McCanns? Why are the McCanns?
Yeah, because there was a photo. Just on that question, there was a photograph, wasn't there, with Jerry McCann and one of the Podesta. Well, both of them, I think.
Yeah. We've got, why are the McCanns against getting DNA tests done?
Well, if they confirm that it is Madeleine, then again, it exposes whatever happened to Julia, doesn't it, with these memories? So it exposes them to potentially sinister activities with children.
Damien wants to know how he can keep updated with your work.
You can go onto my Telegram channel, which is Gary, The Truth Sets Us Free. It is compromised. It is being suppressed, but most people seem to be seeing the evidence.
Okay. Have you looked at the McCann twins?
No, I haven't.
I think Julia addressed that actually in part 3. Lavenium is asking whether you could suspect that Jerry and Julia's mum had an affair?
I wouldn't like to speculate.
And Birdie's asking why the younger children weren't taken.
There is a suggestion from other evidence coming in. In fact, no, because there's evidence I've got that younger children are being involved in this. I don't know, is the answer. It does appear that there is some sort of decision-making process for people involved in this where they subject one of their children and others are completely brought up in a complete normal family life. I don't know exactly why that is, but that does seem to be prevalent.
All right, next question is from Mr. Balding. Gary, what are the 3 largest discoveries you have made during your investigations?
Well, I think as things started out, that the big thing to me was the resignations around me. Okay, I was like, okay, and then the police confirming that they're allowing the bank documents to be produced. But in terms of connections to profile, high profile cases, then probably obviously this one at the moment.
All right, so Tarina has asked, what connection has Julia's sentenced grandfather to this case?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that.
And I'd like to refer people to part 1 with Julia, because people who are saying that Julia hasn't been through something horrific and that she's imagining all this stuff, there is actually a documented case involving family members and involving people. I can't remember the person's name that is related to the McCann case. All right, so next question. What are your next steps to get justice for Julia?
Expose the irrefutable evidence to the public so that they can make a peaceful stand of non-compliance to change and compel a change in the system, which is now absolutely vital.
Thank you. Next question from Christine. Where do you suspect all the millions from Operation Grange have actually gone?
So this system of fraud enables them to move money through company accounts. So you may have legitimately registered companies, but if there's an illegal entity company linked closely, they can launder money through those accounts. When you get to an illegal entity company, the banks have the ability to then falsify those company figures with forged bank documents, send the money into offshore accounts. Unfortunately, I think the fluid taken from little ones is a big part to play in this, because it appears to be extremely addictive, and incredibly expensive. So I suspect a lot of the money, unfortunately, is going through into that very nefarious, sinister activity with children.
Claudia wants to know why the McCanns were not charged with neglect.
Probably because the UK government had connections to the McCanns, and they wouldn't want to expose their own friends or those that they're affiliated to any sort of consequences.
Question from Katie. Do you think Kate will crack under this pressure? She must know what's going on.
I mean, we don't know how innocent Kate is in this. We don't know whether she's a bigger part to play. If she's not, it may be that she was coerced, threatened, pressurized to be part of this, in which case it must be horrendous for her. I mean, it must be horrendous. And she may well be seeing this and thinking, please let this all come out. Let the truth be known. And what a massive weight that will be off of her shoulders if she is innocent.
Yeah, which ties into this next question. I think you've pretty much answered most of it. When Kate said, oh no, they have taken her, was she taken for some kind of deal? Was Kate innocent of knowing what happened to Madeleine?
I think we just answered that, really. We do have to consider, with how big this is, that someone may well be innocent, but not feel as though they can stop what's happening because of the coercion, threats of violence potentially, or the motive behind it financially as well for them and their families.
Does any of this lead to California's Truckee Lake Tahoe?
I have no idea. I've never heard of that.
Next question is from Jane. Are children's care facilities fraudulently incorporated?
Yes, many of them are. Somebody's actually doing some specific research for me on this, and many of them are not even lawful.
Marina wants to know whether May the 1st is a satanic holiday.
I've heard this before. Yeah, it's interesting because there is very clearly a satanic occult system at the very heart of this from the evidence. But yeah, I've heard about the 1st of May. I don't know specifically. I haven't looked into it anymore.
Any thoughts about Freud and any connections he uncovered in connection to the companies? So that's two separate questions. Your thoughts on Sigmund Freud and then connections you've uncovered in connections to the companies.
Is that meant?
Do you have any thoughts on Freud? First, let's do them one at a time.
Yeah, so is this Bankman Freud?
Oh, sorry. I got totally mixed up there.
Bankman Freud?
Yeah, that's it. That's who.
It depends. If it's the same, there was a gentleman, Bankman Freud, I believe, who was convicted of fraud in America.
That's who it is, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are connections, absolutely. I've looked into him, and he is linked to this international government fraud.
Okay, that's it. Freud. It's going to make my head explode in a minute. Okay. So, what do you think about Richard D. Hall's documentaries? That's the next one. On McCann. Can you hear me, Gary?
Done. Oh.
Can you hear us? You still there? I think they're the invisible hand is removing Gary from the stream as we speak. Let's have a look. Come in, Gary.
Because I haven't seen it all yet.
All right. Can you hear me okay, Gary?
Yeah, I can now. It broke up for a little bit.
It did. And I think we have got through all of the questions. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion, Gary?
No, really. Only, everybody can do something to prevent this. It sounds awful, but try and be very positive and optimistic about it, because we have to know the truth in everything in life as a foundation to move forward. Okay, we can't have any relationship, whether it be with a citizen and a council member, or a government, or a husband and wife, or a friend, if you haven't got truth and trust. So now we've brought it straight back down to the hard truth. It gives us a great platform to move forward into a better world, and I believe that's absolutely possible. But a lot of it is down to how the people react and how the governments and those above them react to this.
All right. Huge thank you for spending so much time with us this evening, Gary. I'm going to let you go and close the show, but we would love to get you back on because there's just so much to unpack, but really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No worries, Sean. You're a good man. Thank you so much for what you've done. Thank you.
Oh, cheers. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Wow, my head is like, where did all this information come from all of a sudden? It's like, and I imagine that many of you feel the same. So we'll all go away and digest this now. There were tons of questions for Julia unanswered. So this is probably going to lead to a part 5. Perhaps we could get Gary on separately as well, because I think you guys, many of you, were just blown away by all of that research that he's done right there. I've just sent Ron a message actually as well to get Gary's links so we can put them in the description box so people can follow up on what we've talked about tonight. But yeah, my head's about to explode with all this information right now. I wasn't expecting that. But yes, salute to Gary for providing all this. And Ron is about to go live in a few minutes with John Wedger. People were asking, where is John Wedger tonight? You know, all this stuff with Julia has come about because of John Wedger. He's never led us astray. He's always, you know, brought some fantastic guests to the channel, and he's doing tremendous work himself. And I'd love to do a sit-down interview with John Wedger very soon on all the things he's been researching recently and updating what his latest updates on his McCann research. So thank you for tuning in, guys. It is a lovely community. It is a family we've got here. I think Julia just feels the love and support when she comes on this channel. She was so burnt by other media people, and she was very, even though she wanted to come on in the beginning, she was very nervous about the outcome, even though we gave her all of our reassurances. But you guys have just been in your comments and messages to her on Instagram, etc. Link is in the description. You guys have been just overwhelmingly loving and supportive, and it's gone a long way in her healing process. So I thank you guys for that. So get ready for Ron and Wedger. Ron was brilliant tonight. I thought he handled everything very well when there was so much information to unpack, slowing me down and asking for clarification. So huge salute to Ron. He's doing 7 hours of live streams today. He's absolutely on fire. And, you know, I know there's lots of questions outstanding as to what's been said tonight. So please come back